Hey everybody, just want to create a quick video giving some guidance for this unit called variables to help out anyone who's kind of struggling a little bit with it. Okay, so I'm going to show this from the perspective of those of you following on my regular Computer Science 20S site, or for those of you taking it through InformNet. Either way, we're going to go directly to the assessments page. Actually, just before I do, I'm going to go here to assessments. A post I recently put on the InformNet site is good for, I think, everyone to see. The general order in which you should be doing assignments is one, taking a look at the content. So the content would be, if you're in my class, I'll deliver that live. If you're taking through InformNet or through distance learning, you're reading through the content pages, the web pages, or the PowerPoints, or watching the YouTube videos. Then doing the examples. So a typical unit has two examples in 20S, one larger one in 30S, and one even larger one in 40S per unit. And although examples aren't for marks, except for in the 40S course, you want to do those examples to get a feel for, it really is the big part of the learning, okay? Plus there's tons of hints built into the examples. Then you go to the assessments page. Some of you are going to the assessments page first. You can't understand how to do the assignment unless you look at the content and try an example first. So then you do your work, then you hand it in. We'll do that today. Make sure you're reading the hand-in instructions. Handing things in properly is actually worth a portion of your mark, so make sure you're doing it right. Using the hand-in page, you can see a link there. And then this part is important as well. Once you've handed in work, I will correct it and hand it back to you in your handback folder. Read my reflections on this, read my comments, so you can see kind of if I took a mark off. You're always welcome to hand in corrected work or resubmit work, or you can just incorporate that into your next submission, okay? Then, of course, I'm not going to go over this today, but you should review the unit and then do a unit test at the end of the unit. Okay, so we're going to go to Computer Science 20S. We're going to look at the unit here called variables. So there's a bunch of content here that you can use for links to all kinds of things like the content, etc., etc., etc. And then here are the assessments right here, the various 4 programming problems and the case study. This is also true on the InformNet site. If you go to content and then go to the assessments page on InformNet, you can go down to variables and you'll see the same thing, okay? There's a hints presentation that we'll be using as well. The hints presentation is based on the examples. So I'm just going to open that now so you can see what I'm talking about, okay? There were the hints from the first, or from unit 2, and now here's the hints from variables example 1, and then the hints from variables example 2. So I'm just going to bring up here a larger version of the first set of hints, so you can see right here from the example and these little side boxes, lots of little hints that'll come in handy. Okay, and then we're going to open variables assignment 1, 2, 3, 4, and the case study. I'm just going to briefly talk about the case study first. The case study, I'm not going to obviously go through with you guys. Everything is on the case study, explains exactly what you make. It even gives you the names of all the objects, how to name them all. It then gives you what properties you might want to change to get your design exactly right. And then it gives you all the code. So the next couple pages give you all the code that you key in. So you don't have to problem solve it. It's basically an example. If you do the case study first, expect to see things in there that you didn't see in part 1 of this unit, because the case study incorporates the entire unit. So the unit's broken into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, with 2 examples, example 1, example 2. The case study incorporates all of that, but everything on the case study is there for you. Okay, so then when you go on to do the first programming problem, okay, you should be able to do the first and the second programming problem based on that first example. So you can read about the problem. Actually, let's take a look at what I would suggest is the order in which you approach assignments again. 1, understand the problem. So we'll get to that in a second, but you should read the assignment. There's some written text there. There's some pictures for you to look at. There's hints on the assignments, so look at the bottom of the page. And in the presentation I just showed you for hints, try the program. There's a demonstration folder. I'll show you that in a second. And of course, you can certainly ask me if you're confused. All right, so let's just look at that first step. So I would read about this problem. I would look at the pictures. I would read the hints. Here's the hints at the bottom. But I can also, and you can find this on either site, go to the assignments demonstrations folder. And here you can download the various assignments and try them. So I'm going to download problem 1 and give it a try. Okay, so the doggone pet shop, enter my age. If I was a dog, my age would be this, and exit. Okay, I think I understand. I build a project, I start building what I need. So now let's go to the next stage. So now we're going to design our user interface. Okay, so when we design our user interface, if we have pictures or things we need off the internet, go get them, save them. Use objects from the toolbox and then change the properties of those objects with the properties window. Unit 2 should have got you used to doing this stuff. Let's do this for this one. So looking at what it has to do, I need some labels, 1, 2, 3 labels. I need a text box. I need 2 buttons. And it looks like I need a picture. Okay, all right. 1, 2, 3 labels, 1, 2 buttons, 1 text box, 1 picture box. I also need to go online and find a picture of a dog. Okay, let's make it a little more interesting. There's a dog. Okay, save that somewhere. And now I can start going back to my design and changing properties. So for example, I can add this image. I'm not going too slowly here because you should have been used to doing this in the previous unit. Adding images to picture boxes, changing things with the size mode, making things invisible by setting visible to false. Okay, enter age. Actually, let's be a little more specific here. This should be enter human age. So that goes in there. Decided is the place where they enter that age. Then this would be a set of instructions. I'm not going to type it in just to save time here. And this is where the answer is going to go into this label. So I'm just going to leave that label blank. Some of you think you want to make it invisible. You don't need to do that. As long as it has no text in it, that should be fine. Then a button for woof and a button for exit. Okay, so there we go. There's my design. This is the dog gone fun pet shop. Okay, I'm just going to run it just to see how it looks. Of course, I could spend more time designing, and I want you guys to have some creativity with that. Don't change it so radically that it's a different program, but definitely change. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Human age, instructions, woof and exit. The picture's invisible, which it was supposed to be. We're good to go. Okay, so that stage is done. So now I've understood the problem. I've designed my user interface. Now I need to go in and name all the objects. This is a super important step. Make the names relevant. Okay, so if you're making a button that exits, call it that, right? Don't just call it button. Follow the rules of naming. So you can't use spaces. You can't use punctuation. Use that camel casing style. Okay, start it in a lowercase letter and use the 3-letter prefixing that I outlined. So let's go and name our objects. So name will always be at the top of the properties window. Okay, it's out of alphabetical order because it's important. So this will be my LBL, enter age label. This will be my LBL instructions label. This one here that's kind of a little bit hidden. If you have trouble finding a label because you have nothing in it, another way, of course, is to go up to the properties window, and then you can click on it like that to find the label. So this will be LBL. This is where the answer is going to go. So I'm going to call it LBL answer. Button woof. Button exit. Pick dog. And this will be form variables 1. There we go. Everything's designed. Double check, make sure all my names are in there. Oops, I forgot one. The text box. This is why it's a good idea to check. Before you get to coding, make sure everything's named. So this will be TXT human age. Okay, everything's named. The last step now would be the coding. This is obviously going to be the largest step as the units get further and further along. But coding is crucially important. You did a little bit of coding in Unit 2, and now that we've learned about variables, it's obviously getting larger how much coding we're putting in. There'll be variables, there'll be formulas, there'll be inputs and outputs. Now I'm going to need some hints to help with this. But anyway, so now I feel like I have a plan. The plan is in place. I've got everything I need there. Maybe I'll start with the exit button. So the exit button, it says here in the description, in the hints, you can find that code by asking Mr. Walks or a quick internet search. So another way you could just search for how to exit a C# application. And sure enough, you'd be able to find that code almost instantly with just a quick internet search. But I'm going to give it to you. The exit code would be, double click this. Now I really don't need the properties window or the toolbox anymore. Application.exit, bracket, bracket, semicolon. That is the line of code that will exit a C# program. It'll help you write it. It'll help with the autocomplete. Once you have it in one program, you can certainly copy and paste it to others. You can test it if you want. Should work fine. There it does. Okay, so now the real bulk of my programming is going to be based on this woof button. What do I do here when I click woof? So now I need some more hints, right? So it says here I can use the first example as some hints. That would be really good. So I'm going to go to here, which is the code from that first example, and I see right here a hint saying this line, getting text from a text box, probably needed again. So I'm going to basically repeat that line. String value equals txt. I've changed the name of the text box, so it's different than my example, so I should adapt to that. Okay, won't be exactly like the example. Okay, what else can I get from the hints? Converting to an integer or double is needed again. So it's either going to be maybe this line or maybe this line. So I need to decide, is it an integer or is it a double? This is where the content section would come in handy. If you don't know what those words mean, then you didn't read or watch the video explaining the difference between an integer and a double. Integers are whole numbers, doubles are decimal numbers. So in this problem, dealing with age, I think we can go with just whole numbers. So I'm going to go with this line up here. And a lot of you think that you would then call it number or number 1, like it does in the example here. But this name was, as it says right here, this was just used in the example because the example was just numbers. The names of variables should represent what they're storing. They should be more accurate to what they're actually storing. So the name of this variable should be what it is. What is put in that text box? Well, it's their human age. So I'm going to call it human age. Just calling it age is probably not good enough either because we have two ages, human and dog. Okay, but the rest of the line should be very similar. Convert dot to int32 value. Now that's a very tricky line. You might just have to mimic this line for now. You don't really necessarily need to fully understand what's going on, but at least there you have it, and it's something. Now, I think I need some kind of formula. I need to figure out the dog's age, not the human's age. what should I do here? I've looked in here, talks about formulas, but I'm going to go back to the assignment. Okay? If you were reading it, you would have realized that I gave you the formula. It was in what I gave you. So, okay, an integer for the dog age equals the human age times 7. Okay, I've figured out the human age. Now what do I need to do? Well, I need to display it in a label. So now I need to output this value. I've already inputted the number. That's done. I use the hints for that. Maybe I can use the hints for outputting. Let's go back to the hints. Ooh, there's a hint right here that says putting the contents back on a label will probably be needed again. So I'm looking at these two lines here. Maybe I'll mimic those. Okay, string answer equals, now in there it said something like half the number is, but maybe I should put different words like the dog age is dog age. And then the name of my label's also going to change. Which of these three labels? Well, because I named them so well, I know which one is going to have the answer. Dot text equals answer. There is one more thing to do. The picture of the dog dot visible will become true. This line should be something you learned in the previous unit. So with that in mind, let's see how it works. Put in 10. Woof. Dog age is 70. Okay, it's solved. Now what I would do is I would think about handing it in. So please read the hand-in instructions, which will always be on the last page of your assignment. If you're using Microsoft Word, which I strongly suggest to put your pictures in and to put your code in, there isn't a lot of work to do. So using Microsoft Word is a really good option. If you don't have Microsoft Word and you want to use something like Google Docs, well, then you have to do screen captures not only of the running program, but also of your code so I can see it right. So I'm going to use Microsoft Word. Actually, I'll do it in both just so you guys can see kind of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go and open up a Google Doc. Google Docs. There we go. So I'm going to open up a Google Doc and do this as well so you can see both ends of this. Okay, but first let's read the instructions. So the instruction says select all code, copy, and then paste all code. That's really important, all the code, okay? I don't just need the piece you wrote, I need all of the code. So that's why I gave these little tips here for this, okay? So Control A, select all, Control C, copy, over to Word, Control V, paste. So that's how easy it is in Microsoft Word. It's a piece of cake. If you're working in Google Docs, well then it's a little harder. You need to get your code, you need to do a screen capture. Let me just turn this little program off. And then over to Google Docs, and you need to paste in, oops, the picture of your code so I can see all of it. It might be several screen captures, okay? This is again why it's much easier in Word. Okay, what else do I need to do? Well, it says 2 screen captures, like the graphic below, when it's first run and then after entering the age of 12. Okay, let's take those screen captures. I run it. Here's the initial one. Take my screen capture, put it in Word, or put it in Google Docs. And then I put in 12, click woof, take my second screen capture, put it in Word. So there my Word document is all set, okay? And put it in Google Docs. And now Google Docs also has everything I need. And then it's ready for hand-in, okay? So that's the process. Please make sure you read that. Then you go to the hand-in page, and then you submit it. I'm not going to bother doing that. It's all laid out there, and just ask for help if you're confused. That's how this unit's going to go, okay? Now, I'm not going to do the other ones, but I'm going to give you some tips on the other ones, okay? So when you go on to variables 2, close a few things here. You go into the second one, okay? This one deals with temperature, okay? It's got a few extra little features built in. Please read the hints, because now when you go to do the second one, my advice would be keep the first one open in some way. Remember, you can run 2 versions of Visual Studio at once. You can have it running and then run it again. And that way you can have 2 projects up at the same time, right? You can start building a second project. Meanwhile, the first project is open, and then you can use the code you just wrote for the first problem to help you solve the second problem. So, and that's what this hint says right here. Use that, okay? The formula for converting Fahrenheit to Celsius is right here in the hints. You don't have to look into that. The formula for how to clear out a text box is right there in the hints, okay? So that'll help you with your reset button. Your exit button you can use from the previous problem, okay? There's lots of hints on there. One hint, further hint I'll give about this one is if you look at the problem, you can see it's using decimal numbers, okay, not whole numbers. That's a hint in itself. When you use the hint presentation, okay, so now again going to that set of code here, maybe using decimal numbers might be a little bit more of a hint for that one. Okay, then you go on to look at part 2 of the unit and to do the second example. Second example is going to give you more hints. Then go on to do problem 3 and problem 4. Okay, so problem 3 is a pizza shop program. You enter the size of a pizza and it calculates the price. Remember, you can try it if you want. Let's download a demo of it. Let's download a demo of this one. Okay, you would do the same process, right? You would understand the problem, which is what I'm doing now, design your interface, including getting pictures of pizza and stuff like that, name all your objects, and then code. So let's take a look at this one. So I enter the size of the pizza, say 10-inch pizza. It calculates the price, and a picture of a pizza would appear. Now for this one, you got to do a little math, right? Well, the computer's going to do the math, but you have to do a little problem solving. How is this price calculated? So a lot of the hints for this one are up in here. So please read what it says up here about how it calculates the cost. There's certain things that it adds on to calculate that. Also read the hints down here, okay? How the second example can give you hints on this one, or the first 2 problems can give you hints for this one, okay? There's also a good hint in this one about using comments and using constants. Comments is something I want incorporated starting on this problem. You do not need to do comments for problem 1 and 2. You learn about what comments are in problem 3 and 4, or part 2 and in the second example. So now when you go and look at the hints, now maybe look at the hints from part 2, okay? So you can even see here it says this would help in variables problem 3. So how to make a constant would probably be something you'd need to do for this pizza shop program, okay? All right, so that's what I would suggest for hints for that one. As far as the fourth one goes, the last one of this unit, okay? Again, you can try it. It's a basic calculator. So you could download problem 4 and try it, right? So this one's going to deal with 2 text boxes, not just one. So you'd put one number in one number in the other. You can add them, subtract them, multiply them, and divide them, okay? You can also clear and exit. Now, even just doing this demo, a couple hints happen. When I hit clear, notice this went to 0, not to just blanks, okay? Also, when you read the assignment, notice the numbers I put in here use decimal numbers. That's a hint. So there's hints right there. There's more hints down here using the second example. Unlike the first 3 problems, you will need 2 sets of variables. So one for each text box. Don't reuse the same variables, it says. That's a good idea. It also has another hint about the clear button, okay? Don't forget there's always handed instructions, but those are the hints you're going to need to help get through those last few problems, okay? So remember those tips. And if you get stuck at any stage, email me. But hopefully this video helps guide you through these last few problems. All right, good luck, everybody.